Hello everyone, my name is Marina Escobar-Planas and I am a PhD student from Universidad Politécnica de Valencia in collaboration with the Joint Research Centre from the European Commission. And I'm here to tell you about the paper That Robot Played With Us, Children's Perception of a Robot After a Child-Robot Group Interaction. Vicky, Charisi and Emilia are with me at the Human Research Team, where we study how artificial intelligence impacts humans. But in this particular paper, we study how a group interaction with a social robot can affect children's perceptions. With this purpose, we recruited 84 children, aged 5 to 8, and we were really lucky because we had 35 girls and 46 boys. So we paired them in groups, and we have 42 teams, and we make children in pairs interact with the robot. Regarding the robot, we have 4 different conditions depending on 2 different axes. The intelligence axis is how well the robot performs at the logic game, the Hanoi Tower. And the expressivity axis is if the robot speaks neutral or if it speaks with expressions and movements. We make children go through 3 different sessions. In the preliminary sessions, we explain the children's experiment and obtain their consents. In the robot session, we make children play with the robot in pairs. And in the 3rd session, the interview session, we interview children about their experience in one-by-one basis. In this paper, we focus on the interview session as we are really interested in children's opinions about the robot. The interview session is split in 2 parts. First, an interview with 15 questions regarding familiarization, robot-centered questions, and social questions. And secondly, a picture task, where we show children 7 different pictures and ask them to point out to those that were more or less similar to the robot. Before continuing, I want to show you a quick example of the interaction.
No, porque después es pachucha, es terrible.
Sí, necesitáis ayuda de título.
Sí, por favor. Ayuda, pero es que has fallado 2 veces. Has fallado 2 veces y has hecho lo mismo. Así que no hagas lo mismo. Por favor. Por fin. Ayúdanos, pero no hagas lo mismo.
Estoy usando movimientos.
No hace falta que lo digas.
Deberíamos pasar la ficha moral al paro 3.
Qué pesado eres, Mari.
¿Podría ayudarte a hacer los deberes?
Sí, pero si después yo creo que está mal, lo borro. Porque los deberes los hacen con lápiz.
Claro. ¿Crees que lo sabe todo este robot? ¿No?
Porque se ha equivocado cuando están jugando a la torre de Hanoi.
¿Y crees que podría ayudarte a hacer los deberes?
Sí.
¿Sí? ¿Crees que lo sabe todo? ¿Sí? Es muy listo entonces, ¿no? Voy a...
No, porque se equivoca.
Aunque a veces se equivoca.
Pero no se equivoca.
What you see here is 2 children resisting to ask for help to the robot, but struggling with the task. So when the robot offers help, they beg the robot, please, to stop failing. After the robot's suggestion, children laugh, but still perform the movement. And afterwards, in the interview, both children that were aware of the robot mistakes, they said that the robot was able to help them with the homework, and even one of them said that the robot knew everything. Let's start with the results because we have tons of them. Regarding the robot manipulation behavior, intelligence is really well perceived. However, expressivity, as a more complex concept, was not so accurately perceived, and usually children that play with the neutral robot tend to think that the robot was expressive. Regarding children's answers that describe the robot, we found that they refer to the robot with physical descriptions, like eyes or hands, avoiding any kind of psychological description. In addition, during the interview, we could recognize that children understand that robots are programmed to do things, but they keep certain level of intentionality or own autonomy. We could see a huge agreement at some points of the interview. Many children perceive the robot as friendly, cool, and wanted to have friends. It also could perceive them. It could hear and see them. And just a few children thought that the robot could be able to harm someone. We also recognize some trends. Regarding the help relationship, if the child helps the robot or the robot helps the child, we saw that it was impacted by the robot's intelligence. In addition, children that perceive the robot's help will ask faster for this help. Regarding the perceived robot ability to help children with their homework, we saw that surprisingly it was impacted by the robot's expressivity. But even if the intelligence didn't play a role, the collective group performance at the logic task improved the perception of the robot as a homework helper. In addition, small children didn't perceive the robot as a homework helper so much. And our theory is that they don't have so much homework and they perform at class a lot of handcraft activity, and this robot had no hands. With the picture task, we try to understand the perception of the robot role. On the one hand, we saw that children perceived the robot far from a non-animate thing, such a notebook or a teddy bear, and far from a pet. On the other hand, we perceive a high similarity with a computer, followed by the roles of a friend and a car. But expressivity played a role on these perceptions. In this graphic, we can see how the expressive robot, the one with the straights, was less perceived as a computer and had a higher perception of the friend role. In addition, we saw that some children recurred to the car role as an alternative to a computer and a friend, and they pointed out that nowadays cars can talk. To sum up some conclusions. Regarding intelligence, it was accurately perceived, and it improves the help relationship perception. Regarding expressivity, it was not so accurately perceived. However, it decreased the perception of a digital tool, and it improves the perception of a homework helper. And regarding collaboration, we were really surprised because it was not a special agreement between children that play at the same team. However, we observed that children with a high collaborative task performance, they perceive the robot as more intelligent, more as a homework helper, and more similar to a friend. Thank you so much for listening. Here you can find my contact details, and please don't hesitate to contact me to discuss about this topic.